Hi, Craig Shoemaker, Firsttrax snowplows. We're here today to upgrade a manual angle hydraulic lift plow. What we've done here, we've actually taken one completely apart, or taken the blade assembly apart, so you can actually see through and see all the different components that we're going to be changing out. We don't even have the pump guard on. As you can see, the pump's fully exposed. So you received your hydraulic kit from the shipping company, either Loomis, DHL, Express. These are the components that were included in it: 3 hydraulic hoses, a valve body, and 2 cylinders. So first of all, we're going to install the cylinders, and it's not the most common size bolt that we use in the back end of the blade, but you'll need an 1.5 inch socket and wrench set to remove the back bolt. I've gone ahead and actually taken some components apart just to speed up the process. So we'll take out the 1 inch bolt in the back of this frame. You have to watch the frame itself because it needs some support, because it's going to want to tip down when you remove the bolt. So remove the bar and reinsert the bolt until you get the front component off. So again, I've taken this part apart. So remove the manual angle. What I do is basically take off the caps of the hydraulic kit. And one thing that's important, as this one actually has, if you can see in here, it has the black plastic plug. The supplier has actually wound the caps on too tight, and what happens is a little piece of rubber sticks into the cylinder wall. So what you can do is, oh, it's not going to pop out. With a sharp pin, make sure those are removed. What they will do if they're not removed is get back into your hydraulic system. And that one came out. Cause problems later on. So again, your top end of the cylinder, rebolt that with the same hardware that you removed with the manual angle. And this one here is a little bit tricky, and it's on the front of the vehicle. I said on the front of the vehicle, we're actually doing this on the assembly rack, but it would be the easiest operation if it was on the front of your vehicle when you're doing this with the blade resting on the ground. What I will mention as well is when you start, leave the box powered up, hold the down button and compress the lift cylinder just to take the rest of the oil out of this cylinder back into the chamber. And it will be, I guess, less oil loss through this whole procedure. That's something else that we've done here pre-installed to the video here. I'm going to put the other cylinder on, and again, you have to make sure that those rubber plugs are out. So we'll go through that. After they're removed, the cylinder will open up easily. And again, a little bit of a workspace. As I mentioned before, we have these loosened off. It's not a more common size, but a garage or a local garage or a rental location would probably have the tools the 1.5 inch size. Socket and wrench set. So again, remove the manual angle tube, reinstall the cylinder. You have to support the framework or it just drops out of location. And you need the head of the cylinder from that hole. Reinstall the hardware. And I would go at it and just actually continue here and tighten everything, your front bolts, your back bolts, and then that portion would be complete. Step 2 is changing out the valve body. So first of all, remove the lift cylinder hose that's currently installed. You will lose a little bit of oil. Again, possibly before you start, is oil basket or a basin rather, or oil dry underneath, cardboard, something to grab the little bit of oil that's left in the hose after you remove it. You'll need this 90-degree elbow on your next valve body. It's called an ORB fitting, meaning that there's an O-ring underneath a compression point. So the concept there is to thread it in and then use the nut, which will go through putting it on the other valve body, but then to re-compress the O-ring. So we got that portion off. You can continue to unplug it. Put the wires aside, and then remove the valve body itself. The majority of tools required are fairly standard. This is a 3/16 Allen wrench. You'll need 1 1/8" socket and wrench set for the 3/4 inch bolts at the front. I just had an 11/16 wrench for the hose. Likewise, you'll need the 11/16 when we're putting it back, the hoses onto the cylinders. Now the hardware is reused. So once we remove the valve body, now it is important that, I'll just grab a rag here for a second. I'm not sure how clear the video will be here, but there is 2 O-rings in the pump head. Just make sure they're in place before you reinstall the new valve body. As mentioned, you reuse the hardware, so I'm just grabbing the hardware from the old valve body. Grab the new one. Make sure it's clean underneath. And reinstall. Install all hardware before you tighten it up. Just so you make sure everything's properly in its proper location, rather. Apologize, I don't have a torque spec on these. They're 1/4 inch machine screws, so I will have to get that at a later date and post that on the site for proper spec. Actually, if you type that in, do a simple search, 1/4 inch MC machine screw, and you'll get a torque rating online for that. So now we're going to go through here and we'll just plug the wiring in quickly. Now, some of this stuff is already pre-installed, so move my gloves here for a second. I don't know how doctors do that. So what we're going to do is peel back this tape. Now you're probably wondering why some of the stuff was taped up in the first place, but It is for this reason that we do pre-wire the plug assembly for the upgrade kit. It's all underneath the tape here. Get to it here in a second. Now the angling valve bodies, it's by operator's choice. So some people want to push the left button to angle the blade left, or they want to push the left button to extend the left side and to operate the plow in that setting. So it's as simple, whatever setting that you choose, it's as simple as changing the black and the brown wire. We're going to put them on randomly. Put the brown on the inside, on the orange down in, the black on the other side. I will speak on this. There is a 10 amp fuse in this inline to protect your control wiring. Seldomly has issue. You will have issue if you've damaged your handheld control, pinched the wire underneath the hood. For whatever reason, the plug assembly is faulted. This fuse may blow, which you'll lose operation control of your plow. Again, very seldom goes. It's a 10 amp fuse. You'll find it underneath the guard that's attached here, which again we don't have installed. The back power wire, the red that was already pre-installed, simply goes on the back side here again, which I may have to loosen. I have it stuck against the clamp, so we'll watch for that when you're installing this. And that one reattaches here. I bend those in because the guard is actually fairly tight to that, so we'll retighten this right away. One tool. Alright, so we'll just have to change over the ground wire on this one because your single action system only requires one ground. We have 3 grounds or negative leads attached to one now on the back side of your pump. You will no longer need the single lead, since the 3 lead will replace it. Your single lead was this to your square valve body previously to ground that system. Another part I will say is it doesn't matter on your control. So if you put positive, negative, the control will still work in the DC setting. You can have the power switched around and it doesn't change operation at all. So it's by choice of by the installer on where you want to actually attach that. So we'll go back now and we'll put the hydraulic hoses back on. As mentioned before, you're going to reuse this 90-degree ORB fitting. We'll go into the back side of the pump. Direct it to the valve or the pump reservoir. Tighten that. This hose here just loops into the back. And this is your lift cylinder hose. I would go step by step in tightening these up right away so you're not forgetting about it later. There, your lift setting is all reattached. Now we're going to go put your angle cylinder or angling motion hoses on. Again, these are ORB fittings. It's a rubber O-ring, but different setting that you don't have a compression ring or a nut to press it. It's just basically by tightening it into the valve body, it'll seat itself. So these ones here are for your valve body side. Now you're going to use the hose as a drive to insert them. So if you drop it down through underneath the cylinder, insert it into the valve body, start it with one hand and twist the hose with the other. It'll act as a drive. You have to do this before you put it onto the cylinder or you won't be able to tighten it. Again, tighten. Second hose. Other side of the pivot pin underneath the lift cylinder. Again, twist and turn. There's that. Now these we do it a little bit differently. We power the back side of the cylinder, the smallest chamber. What it does do is it allows the cylinder to collapse a little bit easier in the one direction, leaving an air chamber in the front. So now if we can just take the camera down below, this actually shoves, or up through the front here would be a good view. The hose actually goes up through into the cross channel and out through the side hole. And bring it up to the top of the cylinder. This one attaches to this side. I don't actually have the second wrench here, but sometimes when you're tightening the large coupling nut, the hose wants to twist. So if you find it relaxed, meaning that it's not binding up, and you might need the second wrench on the second nut here to hold as you're tightening this fitting to relieve it of its twist or torquing, or I guess a load in the hose that it's not sitting straight. So again, we'll go to this side. We'll take it up through the cross channel, out through the side hole, and to the back of the cylinder. Doing it a little bit. I have my other wrench here again. Second wrench here to tighten up this hose. Sorry about that. So you can see how the twist affects the hose. So if you hold the hose straight, you can just tighten up the coupling nut or the swivel joint, and that's secure. Your last hose is called a link hose, and this just keeps basically the front chamber clean and dry. So again, you're going to go in through the same side hole here, down through the bottom of the channel, up through the channel,
and out the other hole.
And if you just even that hose out from side to side, it just loops back. Your spring, your release spring will be in here. And install it. Again, this is just to keep the front chambers of the cylinder clean and dry. And if for whatever reason, if there is blow by on your packing of your cylinder, it'll just move side to side of your as it's in operation. So a quick recap. Remove the manual Angler thigh tubes. Sorry, one step back. On the vehicle, have the plow in the vehicle. Lower the plow to the ground. Release the pressure in the lift cylinder just to get as much oil out so there's not as much oil lost when you release the hose. Remove the manual angle tubes. Reinstall the cylinders. Tighten the bolts as you go. And then you change out the valve body. Reattach the hose and the wiring, angle cylinder hoses, and top up with oil if need be. As you can see, there was very little oil lost by doing this. There was some on the valve body at the start. I operate it before you put the valve body or the guard back and on, just to make sure the operation is of your choice. So meaning if you press the left button, you're either plowing left, or you're going to be pressing the left button and extending the left cylinder to actually push the stone to the right. It's by choice. So if you need to, again, just switch the two power wires coming down from your control box. In this case, it was the brown and the black. Just simply flip those around and the operation will be changed. Reinstall the pump guard, and you have a fully hydraulic Firsttrax snowplow.